Stepney was cold and alone, along with his crew. He had been on loan for a whole week and was finally returning to his home. He was told he could make it there through the night, which he saw no problem in. He had had several nighttime runs, and in some ways preferred them to the daytime ones. They were more peaceful, and he enjoyed travelling under the moonlight. On this night, however, no one mentioned the fog. It was very thick too, and Stepney's lamp didn't make much of a difference. He had no idea how far he was from home, but more importantly, he didn't know where he was right now. He had hoped he would, as he was sure he was taking the same route he had used to where he was loaned. Surely this must be the same one. As he continued on, he noticed something in the distance, a bright red glow. Stepney knew what it was.
Hey, look, it's a signal.
He called to his crew.
Ah, maybe we can ask the signalman where we are.
The driver put on the brakes, and the little engine came to a gentle stop, next to the signal. Once they were close enough, they could also make out the signal box. The signalman spotted them too, and walked towards the door.
Looks like the signalman wants to see us.
Rather him than us. Your fire's so warm, I don't want to leave it.
Driver, I don't think we took this route before.
Really? Why's that?
Because I don't remember seeing that.
The driver and fireman looked at what Stepney was referring to. There was a set of buildings that looked as if they hadn't been touched for decades. They could also see several sidings that had rusty, overgrown track, and among all of this was a lonely single-row shed that, much like the other buildings, had seen better days. Stepney wasn't sure if he was scared or intrigued. What is this place? He turned back to the signalman that had just stopped in front of them.
Evening, you lot. Haven't exactly picked the best night for a run, have you?
No one told us about the fog. I thought it would be a clear night.
Well, that's the weather for you. The bastards will say you're going to get a lovely day, but it ends up being miserable. Anyway, where are you heading?
Brighton.
Brighton? Then why are you taking this route? It's the longest one there.
Well, that's the thing. We don't really recognise this route. We didn't take it before. How far is Brighton from here?
Honestly, I don't know the exact distance. Regardless, I don't recommend reaching it tonight, lads. This fog's getting worse by every minute, and it isn't safe.
Stepney groaned. This was the last thing he wanted to hear.
But where can we stay? I don't want to stay out here. It's dark and miserable.
Well, you can stay in that shed over there by the mines. It's not pretty, but it'll have to do.
Oh, so that's what that place is.
No idea how long it's been there. I took control of this box 8 years ago.
The signalman paused. He looked at all the buildings from one to another. He seemed to be deep in thought.
I've heard stories about this place, when it was being operated and some of its incidents.
What kind of stories?
Well, let's just say some of them are rather unpleasant. I always hear noises from there too, as if there's still people in the mines. But I know that's impossible. All the mines have collapsed. No one can fit in there now. Could have just been in my head.
He then turned to the crew in the cab.
As for you two, you're welcome to stay in the box as long as you don't create any distractions.
Of course. Thank you.
Stepney slowly backed down into the shed. The wooden walls were all rotten and dirty, and there were holes in the roof. However, he realised it was either the shed or staying on a siding in the cold temperature and mist. But that wasn't the only thing on Stepney's mind.
What do you think that signalman was talking about?
The crew had put out his fire, and they walked round to the front of him.
Not sure. If you ask me, he sounds a bit crazy. Can't say I'm surprised when he spends almost every day in that little box.
Oi! Enough of that! That signalman you call crazy was kind enough to give us a shelter for the night. Unless, of course, you want to sleep outside.
Oh, God, no! Can't stand another second out here. Sorry, Stepney. Wish you had better shelter than this.
Yes, well, I guess it'll have to do. I'll be fine. East Grinstead's been worse than this, long ago.
Make sure you get loads of rest, old boy. We've still got a way to go tomorrow.
I'll try. Oh, good night, you two.
Good night, Stepney.
Good night, Stepney.
And with that, the driver and fireman walked away towards the signal box. And now, Stepney was truly alone. He couldn't see very far in front of him. The mist made it feel like he was on a very small pocket of land, completely separated from the rest of the world. And there was no one. No one besides him. Stepney wasn't sure if he would ever get sleep, but gradually he felt more and more tired. Finally, he closed his eyes and sleep took over.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Stepney didn't know how long he was asleep. When he opened his eyes, everything was the same. He was still at the old mine, still in the old dirty shed. What was different was the mist. It was even thicker now, and the area around him felt even smaller. Of course, though, that wasn't what woke him. Stepney surveyed all the deserted buildings, but he couldn't see anyone. But if there's no one, who did he hear?
Hello? Can anyone hear me?
The voice had an echo to it, as if it was coming from a cave. That could only mean one thing. Stepney looked towards the mine entrances that he could just make out through the blanket of fog.
Wait, someone is in there. Help! Someone please help!
Stepney began to feel uneasy. That wasn't the same voice as before. Was there two people in there?
Is anyone there? I'm trapped.
Another one. How many were in there? Snapping out of his confusion, Stepney realized that the logical thing to do was to call back. So whoever was in there would know they would have been heard and would be freed. Stepney could only imagine how terrible it would be to be trapped inside a mine with no way out and no light to help them see. He would feel like a monster if he just stood by and did nothing. He opened his mouth to speak, but then he closed it. Stepney realized he had forgotten something. Something that the signalman had said.
All the mines have collapsed. No one can fit in there now.
Stepney wasn't just confused, but now he was scared. Was the signalman telling the truth? Did he mean every single mine shaft? If he did, no one should be in there. No one could be in there.
Hello?
At that point, more cries can be heard. Several voices now, all of them expressing nothing but complete fear and horror, and all Stepney could do was sit motionless and listen. He then made a decision, whether it was impossible